Wow, what a day for news. First, I thought, hey, I'm going to have to talk about Imran Khan's arrest and the unrest that followed it in Pakistan. Then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk about the over the weekend, the Chilean election results. They elected a committee to write a new constitution, and it seems that the Chilean right are going to have an outsized influence. The left only won like 17 out of 50 seats. And then just an hour or two ago, we got the news, the bombshell, that Donald Trump is a convicted sexual predator. Well, technically he's not convicted because he wasn't criminally charged with anything. He was civilly sued in New York City, I believe in Manhattan, for sexual, I can't remember exactly what the exact wording was. I think it was sexual misconduct. And defamation against one E. Jean Carroll, the craziest bat to ever grace the airwaves of CNN. Now, for those of you who might remember E. Jean Carroll, which I would think is a pretty small number, considering she hasn't been on TV in years, the media did not really like her. She didn't do a good job representing herself. And making her case seem plausible or reasonable. The week or two that she did a media campaign and was, promoting her book, because she had a book deal to write, and the big hook of the book was, I write about how I was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump. Buy my book if you want to read all about it. It was the only reason that anyone bought her book. It was the only reason probably that she got a book deal. And her story just sounded ridiculous, and she sounded crazy. That was the gist of it, and once the media figured out that she sounded crazy, they stopped putting her on TV, because that actually just would make Trump look good. I mean, she went so far as to say that rape is not necessarily sexual, which seemed to be her way of saying, yeah, I'm saying that I was raped by Donald Trump, but I'm not saying that he forced me to have sex or anything. No, it was nothing like that. But in what I consider to be a test case for Trump's rather thin criminal indictments in the Southern District of New York, to be tried on the island of Manhattan, E. Jean Carroll won a lawsuit with a Manhattan jury. The jury was gone for mere minutes from what I recall. They came right back and they said, yep, Trump's definitely guilty. And so, they're willing to convict him on this, or to, I guess, I don't know if the term is convict in a civil case. I'm not sure what it would be. But in this case, if that's the case, then, they probably will convict him in the Stormy Daniels case as well. And if they try and put Trump away in prison, I don't know what that means for the presidential election, frankly. I mean, it's hard to see if he was convicted, or if he lost on this to the Manhattan jury with a ridiculous, non-suit like this. As ridiculous as the Stormy Daniels stuff is, I don't see how he wins on that. These are just juries these are jurors in New York City who want to get Trump at all costs. Their goal is to put Trump away and to, do him harm. And from what I've heard, this is the main impetus behind the budding DeSantis campaign. DeSantis never had any intention of running against Trump and beating him. What DeSantis was told by all of the people, good or bad, who were trying to get him to run was that, Trump is going to be taken out of commission. There's going to be no one to run. And so if you run, you're not going to be running against Trump. You're going to be running in place of Trump. And so that's why you need to run for president, old Ron. It's because Trump's going to be taken out, and somebody's got to carry the torch, and that should be you. This is apparently what people have been telling DeSantis behind the scenes. But the problem for DeSantis is that the Trump trial that may or may not lead to Trump's imprisonment that is going to take place after after the meat of the Republican primary campaign. So, in order for DeSantis to take Trump's place, when he eventually is thrown in prison, if that indeed is going to happen, he has to first beat Trump in a primary election. That's not going to work. DeSantis will get destroyed by Trump in a primary election. That is, I firmly believe that at this point. Now, DeSantis may change. He may become a better candidate, but at this point, I don't think he can handle it. He's not up for it. In a general election against Joe Biden, sure, I think DeSantis would do great. But again, in a primary against Trump, I think Trump would destroy DeSantis and make him damaged goods to the point to where if DeSantis ran in a primary and lost, and then Trump was thrown in prison and the Republicans said, oh gosh, we need to find a new nominee, DeSantis would become so radioactive as a result of that primary that they couldn't even nominate him at that point. Whereas if he doesn't run at all, there is a possibility that I could see him being some kind of, consensus candidate brought in, if Trump has to, resign and the GOP decides to nominate someone else. And, the legal path is unclear, because we don't really have parties just switching out nominees in the middle of an election cycle. Ballots have to be printed and whatnot. So depending on when this verdict comes down, it might be too late. Now, it is not impossible, from what I understand, for Trump to be elected, even if he gets convicted of a felony and he's thrown in prison. I forget what Alan Dershowitz's exact quote is. It was something like, he will govern from prison. And he couldn't pardon himself because it would be state charges. At least I believe. Or wait, or is Alvin Bragg, is he a... Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he's what we would call here in Florida a state attorney. Up there it's a district attorney, yeah, because it's not the Southern District of New York, because it's not the U.S. Attorney's Office. So this is not a federal case. This is a state case against Trump. So Trump would not be able to pardon himself, even if he were elected. He would have to run the executive branch from Rikers Island or something. I wonder what the presidential suite at Rikers Island looks like. I mean, could you imagine anything more Trump than having, an Oval Office and a presidential suite on Rikers Island? The Dems, they're smart. They're slimy and they're pretty smart. And I don't think that Alvin Bragg is going to lock up Trump in time for the Republicans to find another nominee. And even if they could, maybe logistically, it would look too bad from the voters' perspective. It would just look like they're abandoning Trump. In fact, the worst thing they could do probably if Trump gets convicted late in the cycle is take Trump off the ballot and put someone else on there, because it would look like that the Democrats won. I think that if Trump's voters, what they would want in that situation is an opportunity to vote for Trump and to show how much they support him. If Trump's name is scrubbed off the ballot and replaced with Ron DeSantis, I think people would reject that, and they would reject Ron DeSantis personally, by extension. So I don't think that what DeSantis has been convinced of is good advice. I don't think that this is going to benefit him long term in any way. Now, could I be wrong? Sure. But me being wrong, I think, would have to be predicated on Trump giving his blessing to DeSantis, which is not going to happen. I mean, he decided that DeSantis was his enemy before, even before the 2022 elections. So he's pretty dead set against the guy. Trump is not passing the torch to anybody this cycle. If DeSantis tries to run for president, and even if he is the nominee, he's going to be doing it without Trump. And by extension, that means without a good chunk of Trump's base. There are going to be a lot of people who, if Trump sits out the election and he says, you know what, I don't like this guy, they're going to sit it out too. what the Democrats will force the Republicans to have to do if the Republicans actually want to win, if, as the case against Trump accelerates or escalates, and if Trump is eventually convicted and sentenced to prison, the Dems will force the Republican Party to double down on Trump or face electoral doom, because that is what the voters will demand. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.